Hello everyone and welcome to another new video. In our past couple of saxocology talks, we've been learning about different instruments and their histories, what makes them unique, where their stories come from, and how they're kind of a larger part of the whole saxocology picture. But today I wanted to spend some time doing some kind of hands-on teaching work with one of the horns in particular. So today we're going to start with my Buescher Aristocrat tenor saxophone. This is kind of a discussion, a lesson on how to, just get comfortable, where your hands need to go on a saxophone like this to really start to make it yours and you're practicing. So right off the bat, we have different key heights from modern instruments. We have a different neck angle from modern instruments. These vintage American saxophones really take a couple of slight adjustments to understand what it is that you want to, move forward with from your sound. And it starts really at the beginning with how you're holding it. So do know and take into effect that the vintage American saxophone has a more kind of straight or flat neck angle than a modern instrument, which is usually a little bit higher. So that right off the bat is giving you a different approach to how you hold your instrument. So when you have a vintage American saxophone like this, I often recommend to be prepared to support it with your right arm a little bit more. You're going to kind of have to hold it to keep a straight angle of airflow going through for ideal, sound quality and, placement throughout your sound. So for example, rather than going for an upwards angle like this, do try, if it's comfortable and safe, to really kind of bring it to you and make it so that it's almost straight on. If you have a higher angle, you might get into some difficulty kind of holding the horn in a proper posture. See how much I already have to adjust just to get it to that place. And if I were to do so, I know that I could still find a good sound. However, it'll be a different position. My thumb might not be in a great position. It's up to you. As always, the saxophone is designed to be a comfortable extension of your musical voice. So always follow that and don't try and do anything that might be uncomfortable or dangerous. This is a heavy instrument. Your neck is also pretty fragile. So as you learn to build strength around your posture, keep that into, keep it in your mind. It will affect certain things down the road. We don't want any injuries while playing. So now we've talked about a little bit of the posture and holding your saxophone, I want to dive into the straight tone hold concept. Because American saxophones have these tone holes in the body that are all in line. In the mid 40s and 50s, when the European design started to shift them, and now they're offset, that went away. But these American saxophones keep that design all the way straight down. You'll see this on some modern sopranos too. It works wonderfully. But that means that you can actually keep your fingers in a slightly different position. Rather than feeling your hands kind of go outwards to the side, you're going to keep them straight on. So it's kind of this, it's a perpendicular relationship to the saxophone and where your hands go. For my, thumb is here, and it's just a flat extension of pinky all the way through. So I'm keeping my hand flat rather than curved outwards. The same with my right hand as we hold it down from below in the thumb hook. And I keep my hand more or less perpendicular with the saxophone. So all of my fingers just kind of flat right into place. Now, because I have longer fingers, it might be more comfortable for me to hit the C, but some people like to just rest their pinky on the E flat, right, and then go down to the C when needed. Again, you have to use and incorporate your body and your posture and what makes you unique into how unique your sound will be. And that's what's exciting about this. So, first, our posture, our angle, now our hands in position. This is where the fun begins. If you have an American vintage saxophone like so, really take the time to find what placements and where your hand might roll is what's comfortable for you. So you have the main 6 notes on the body, right? Then you have your auxiliary keys with your pinky and the insides of your fingers. Focus on that particular scale for a second. It's a 6-note scale, and it can either be a major or a minor scale. This tenor, it's the saxophone's D major, or it's a D minor. It's hard not to play some auxiliary notes. I do just love building that into my sound. So as we have this quick kind of 6-noted approach around the horn, we can use those interval relationships to build, further technique concepts. For example, we have a major 6. Let's play major 6 throughout the horn. You can go all the way up and go all the way down, but either way, you'll still be starting at your lowest note on the saxophone, a B or a B flat, and your highest on the saxophone in F, F sharp, or F double sharp, the high G. As your keyed notes on the instrument, it gives you kind of this relationship, because if you think about it, what is a low B or B flat to a G? It's the same 6th as is in the inside of your horn. So, a little fun of music theory and instrument relation, but that's what instrumental pedagogy is about. And in the next couple of videos, we'll continue to kind of uncover some fun little tidbits about how that works in your playing. Back to the body of the instrument. In the left hand, you have a G to an F. But if you ask yourself, how do I play those notes without my other hand? You do have an alternate approach to the palm keys. If you were up in a higher octave, you can play all those notes by themselves. In a lower octave, they're not as strong and stable, but you can still use them as a quick alternate fingering in certain passages. For example, using your palm keys, even in lower octaves, allows you to kind of lean on one side of the instrument more than another. So if you don't want to have that little jump that you hear when you go to a full body D, just do it with the left side. You want to make the D even larger, Dexter Gordon. He'd play the full D with all the keys, and then he'd also open it up on the side. Tricks like that allow you to expand your sound greatly in a saxophone like this. But going back to the fact that you have this G through F relationship. On my tenor, I can get that E. It's almost there. So if I don't rely too heavily on it, I can still make that note come to life. I really like using that side D on these because the way the position on this horn, this buescher can really get it nicely in tune for regular play. As always, when you're in chamber settings or in different environments where your tuning needs to be more precise, take the time to find out if these alternate fingerings can be a viable choice for you. Just because I do it does not mean that it's correct in every setting. I don't want any of you guys watching this out there to get in trouble because of me. However, if your teacher has a problem with what's going on, feel free to have them write me. I'd love to hear from them. So now we've learned a little bit about the two-handed nature of the saxophone and its body and how you can play certain things on either side. Let's talk about how this comes into effect in your practicing. For example, with our left hand, we have this G through F. But for now, because that F isn't really in tune, we're going to stick to the 6-note scale relation inside of the saxophone. As we said, on the whole body, we have 3 and 3. And then, on the left hand, we have this G to E flat, or E. So as we practice that, the scales on my right will show you that you can do this all with one hand. It looks like this. And the major. Remember, that E isn't always in tune, but the note is still there. It works perfectly in the higher register. Just early in the morning, I don't want to hear those high notes. So, that was our left hand and its scale. We could also say that if you raise this all by a half step, we have this in A flat as well. Or if we lower it, F sharp, gets a little bit tricky there because we're going to be using an auxiliary function of our next hand. And that's where this crossover begins. So let's talk about that. If you think about the saxophone in a way of we're keeping these scales and intervals intact throughout the instrument wherever we go, we're slowly shifting as this game between both of our hands. Right? So sometimes we're only in our left hand, and sometimes we might only be in our right hand. But as we start to learn how to use the two of them together, we're unlocking the entire range of the saxophone. So we think of this. Rather than only the notes being with our left hand, now we're adding in one with our right to make this F or this F sharp. Watch what happens when I do this with F. That is 1 plus 3, right? But then as this 3 goes away, so does this 1. So we're using these in conjunction with each other to make the rest of the sound in the scale. Same goes for F sharp with my middle finger. And that would be when you get up to the D or the D sharp with the F sharp relation. You're using both of the palm keys instead of just one because you're augmenting the palm key with your finger up by a half step using the next part of the joint. So by keeping your hands perpendicular to the horn, like we talked about before, you quickly come into place. I got a little carried away there, but I thought it was a fun melody. F sharp is a great key to practicing. Don't be afraid of sharp keys or flat keys. Really get ready to dive into your saxophone and learn about what makes the relationships between each key so unique. We can keep going all the way down on the saxophone, but I think I'm going to leave this here because it allows you to find out more scales for you that work best. But really start to think about these small note relationships in your playing and what you do and how it becomes a part of your musical knowledge. Thanks for joining me on this one. I'll be back very soon. We'll continue to talk about these. We'll add in some more scales. And we'll just kind of start teaching through the horn instead of about the horn. All right. Thanks, everybody. I'll play you guys out. Thank you.